Hello. Are we starting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to another episode of Historia.
I am Kylie.
I'm Jaime. We're American, can you tell?
I don't know why we could never just do a normal intro. We never do. That's why you love us.
James is going to London next week. And I was like, oh, you're going to London?
What the heck?
He's like,
London.
He's like, what? And I was like, you're going to meet some British people. He's like, just stop.
Oh, man. Yeah, we won't do accents on here. We won't do that to you guys. But I hope everyone is doing swell today. We're recording at night. I guess we usually do. Well, it just depends. It's about half and half.
Yeah, we've been doing some in the morning mostly, but
yeah.
Scheduling.
Yeah, Saturday night.
Happy Merry Spring.
Yeah, I guess it's like spring. Literally the day spring started, my allergies got bad. Like,
oh my God, I know.
There's so much pollen everywhere.
The pollen, all the wind. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so windy here.
Yeah.
Like we get up to hurricane winds here and it freaking blows down all of your... Yeah.
Today was so bad.
It just blows your fence down and then you have to talk to your neighbor, which is awkward.
Yep. I've done that. Except it was the snow.
Yeah.
That pushed a tree into a fence.
I really hope we don't get that snow, that last minute snow that we did last year.
I know.
Because it's like every 2 or 3 years that we get a really bad snowstorm, like at the very end of May.
Yeah.
Like right before Memorial Day, it gets really bad.
I'm hoping we got it all out of our system.
I have
maybe one more storm for, what month is this? What are we in?
March.
I don't know why I thought it was April.
Still Women's History Month.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, maybe we'll get one more storm in April, and I'm hoping like we can pass May, but that rarely happens. We usually get a storm in May.
I know. I was freaking shaking my trees last year.
Yeah, that one is bad.
It was so bad. The dogs loved it, though. They love the snow.
They're all here for it.
But I hope not, because I hate shoveling. I really do. And I'm on my own to shovel. I am not ready to mow the lawn. I haven't done it since I was a kid. So,
good luck.
Teenager, actually. But no.
Best of luck out there.
We don't even really have grass. It's like dirt with some grass.
And don't mow it. It's fine.
I might just... Well, in the front, it kind of is. So, we'll see where we are.
Yeah, we just get weeds that are really high.
Yeah. I mean, grass just doesn't really grow out here.
Yeah.
You get turf and then you look awkward.
Colorado.
Colorado.
Oh, gosh. I've just been playing Sims so much and, trying to get my dog to recover from her surgery. She got spayed.
Poor thing. So
this whole week has just felt out of whack because we've been like... We blocked off like the upstairs and downstairs. We've all been like living in the living room. So I feel like my everything's just my schedule's wrong.
Yeah.
I've been like wasting time doing things, not being productive. So anyway, we're back at it.
Yeah. I've just been here.
Just living your life.
Yeah. I started writing my book.
Ooh.
73 pages in.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's going to be long. I haven't even started.
Fun times.
Yeah, but no, I'm going hiking tomorrow, so
that'll be fun.
Yeah. I had to buy new shoes.
Nice.
You gonna sneeze?
I don't know. I can't breathe right now. It's a wind. I just kept crying today. Not actually crying, but my eyes were watering so badly.
Yeah.
And then when we were leaving, I went to the Disney on Ice. And then when we were leaving, the wind was so strong that I got in my car and I looked in the mirror and I had black all over my eyes from my makeup. And I was like, okay.
You know who also wore a lot of makeup?
Oh, good segue.
Yeah.
Who?
Marie Antoinette.
Oh, I think it's time to talk about the queen of the hour.
Part 2.
So you are going to do part 2 and 3, you decided?
Yeah, I think so, because I have a lot more notes to go, and so I thought it was just only fair to split it up.
Yeah.
Just so, because if you don't have a lot of time...
Yeah. I like shorter episodes when I listen to podcasts. I like them. I like them shorter.
Plus, this one will get you prepared for the final week of death.
All right. Well, let's stop talking about weather and all those things, and let's just jump right on in.
Yeah. So last week we started off with Maria Antoinette, who was the Archduchess of Austria, and her 16 kids and counting family.
Classic.
All of her siblings and her mother, of course. And pretty much her being set up to marry the Dauphin of France, Louis. So that is pretty much a good, I guess, introduction of what we talked about last week. Go ahead and listen to it. A good old recap. So this week we are going to talk a little bit more about her and her reign as pretty much the queen, kind of, not really as much as like the queen, but just pretty much her getting settled into the life of being a French noble.
Yeah.
So.
Sweet.
So it might be a little bit longer than last week's, but we'll see where we're at.
Just take it by the minute.
Yep. So where we are starting right now, Marie is 14 years old and had just married the Dauphin of France, Louis the 16th. And he was only a year older than her, so he was 15. Just 2 kids getting married.
Wow, of course.
Just the usual.
Yep.
You know.
Always happens.
Which is crazy to me because normally when a young woman is getting married into the next heir of a very powerful kingdom, he is hella old compared to her. Like normally he's like in his 40s, having 3 ex-wives.
Yeah.
And she's just coming in. But no, this was both their first marriage and they were both super young. They were just kids, which is terrifying to think about, that he was the next because his dad had already died. So when his grandpa died, he was next.
That is terrifying.
It is terrifying to know that, like, especially if you were just like a peasant, you're like, excuse me, who's our next king? And they're like, oh, Louis the 16th. Oh, okay. I heard his father died. How old is he now? Like what? 20, 22, whatever. 15.
Wow.
And they're like, what? He's gonna run our kingdom? You're kidding, right? And they're like, no, that's how it is. I would be terrified. I would be petrified. Yes, he is a child. No one should be running a kingdom at 15 or even before you're 35.
No.
But then again, by the time you're 35 in this time, you're already on your way out the door.
I get that. You want them in their prime. And at that time, it was like teens. But
yeah.
Also,
I mean, we look at it now and we've done so much research in the development of a human and how you haven't really reached your peak until you're 25. And we're all still constantly learning every single day. So just thinking that anyone who's like in their teens or even in their early 20s, like running a country, you're just like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I would hate to live in that time.
Right?
But it happened. So in this case, he was 15 getting ready to be king at some point. He's just waiting for his grandfather to die. So, and I didn't dive into him. I kind of wish that I did, but also he could have his own perception that we can look into because he was doing his own thing when Marie was doing her own thing.
Yeah.
Or Antoinette was doing her own thing. So they have 2 completely like separate lives that we can each discuss. But this week's I'm just talking about Marie Antoinette.
Yeah. Because it's Women's History Month. So
yeah, we're going to focus on her.
We don't need to talk about him. I don't even remember his name.
Louis.
Oh, yeah.
I do love that name. Louis.
I do like it, yeah.
Whew.
Jeez, getting hot in here.
It is. I have a heavy coat on. Okay, so when we think of... Hold on, I just kept scrolling for some reason. I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands. It's just awkward. So even though she was a wealthy archduchess herself, you would assume that like she would fit kind of right into like the French royal living.
Yeah.
Hell no. Because the French have their own way of doing things, like Austria had their own way of doing things as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and you have to think, too, these countries hated each other for a long time.
They ain't gonna copy each other.
No, of course. And, like, everything from, like, their clothes to their ideologies to, like, their language, everything was different. Mm-hmm. So her stepping in at the age of 14 by herself into these new shoes of the Dauphin of France, she had to automatically accept her role and start to try and fit in, which she struggled throughout her entire life. Like, she never truly fit in to be even the queen. Like, everybody had a word to say about her, and she was just doing her best. She's like, I'm just here. I'm just trying. I'm just trying. So the French had their own ways of, like, doing things, and she didn't know French at all going into, like, she knew Austrian because that's where she was from, and I didn't see if she knew any other languages, but I assumed that she knew that she was receiving lessons of French, and she had to equip to it over time. Because you're going to live in this country, you're only going to be familiar with French people anymore, so that you're going to have to learn the language, like, right away. So I'm sure, like, on a ride to France, she was probably being tutored by some guy to be like, how do you say hello? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
So, yeah, she did not know French really well, and this was a huge problem because this language barrier was going to become a problem between her husband, the other royal family, and all of the people in the court. And so that was like a big red flag for everybody. They're like, we shouldn't have let this Austrian in. Like, this is not great.
Everyone's freaking out.
Yeah, everyone's just freaking
They
out.
have nothing else to think about.
Yeah, and like the French, like, royals are just like, we have no money. We have to.
They're like, sorry.
we need peace. We can't.
Unless you give us another option. Like, I don't know what to fucking do.
Pretty much. So this was looked down to the people of France. Like, it wasn't even the people in the court as well. It was also the people of France. When they heard that, like, oh, this Austrian chick was coming in and being the new queen at some point, they're like, you're kidding me, right? She doesn't even know French. Like, she doesn't know the culture. She doesn't know the norms. Like, what is she doing here? This looks like kind of like a form of betrayal to your people.
Yeah.
That you would do this. And I mean, there's always two sides to look at it. Like, I understand, like, the French side of just like, okay, she is from a family that was like an enemy and now she's a part of it. But like, you look at her side and she was forced into it. Like, she didn't really have a role, and her mom just was like, you better play the part.
Yeah.
Because I think if she ruined it, her mom would be like, you're done. You're disowned.
That's true.
Because I think after Maria Theresa, after she lost Francis, she just wasn't the same. She was very hard.
All her daughters kept failing her.
Yeah. And one of her daughters fucking hates her now because she couldn't marry the guy that she wanted. But no, I think, like, Marie always looked up to her mother because she always wanted her to show, like, hey, I can be the best. I can do great things for the country. And I feel like she kind of did it, but, like, I bet her mom was just fucking pissed too after everything.
Yeah.
She was like, you're kidding me. But I mean, like, she couldn't do anything about it. She's just a queen. Like,
Right.
I mean, she had a bigger role than most of the other France queens, which is shocking. So, one of the big problems that would also come immediately as Marie Antoinette took into the new French royal life was her day-to-day activities. So she was in Austria, with her being just like the youngest and kind of just being an archduchess. She had her freedom. She had her own freedom. Like, she could do whatever she wanted. She can go outside and play for however long. She could go read a book if she wanted to. Whereas in France, that's different, especially when you are the Dauphin of France, becoming queen soon. Like, you have so many expectations to hold, and one of them is never being alone. This pissed her off. She's just like trying to escape. Like, I can't get alone.
Aww.
And even like Louis, I was reading part in one of my sources was that Louis had this problem too, that he couldn't be alone either. Like, that wasn't accepted, but he figured out a way to be alone. Like, he kind of just like ninja hid his way out of the room and kind of just like hid for a little bit.
He's just hiding in a corner.
Yeah. Whereas like she's trying to run away and all of like the maids are like, Miss, you must put your dress on.
Miss, where are you going?
Yes,
Come back.
She's like, get the fuck away from me.
That's hard. Like, I'm a big extrovert, but even I can't imagine like not having an ounce of time alone like that.
Oh yeah. It was privacy was no such thing. They were there when she had courtiers in the room when she ate any time of the day. There was endless amounts of maids that would be with her as they dressed her.
Wow. And
just were like in the room. Like, there was always someone in the room with her. Like, she couldn't just have like her
when
privacy. Pretty much, yeah.
Because they're probably watching her. Ma'am, you got to pee.
Do you need to wipe?
I will wipe for you, ma'am. She's like, I can do it.
Oh, God.
Poor thing.
So the next, other than her privacy that was gone, was also her fashion. So she had to remove all of that Austrian fashion that was part of her, where I think this really, with her being so young, I think she really took to fashion as like a coping mechanism. Uh-huh. Because she was a huge fashion icon. Like, she's still highly influenced in today's fashion for her apparel. And I think with her taking to fashion, she was just like, it was like a safety net for her that she could really like dive into, to really care about. But with that,
well, it's like the only thing she had control over at the time.
Exactly. Like, she was so out there. That was her freedom, was to decide what she wanted to wear, even though it was not accepted.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't give a fuck. It's what's going on in my body. I'm going to decide what I want to wear. And everyone's like, oh my God. Like, oh my God, how dare she wear that? And she's like, get over it. They're like, oh my God. Scandalous. I love it, but I hate her. The biggest gossips on the planet. Literally, gossip columns, gossip in general, just has been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah, they just had to be more creative back then. You couldn't just like open your phone and see and text.
They would create these pamphlets like with the printing press and everything, and they would just hand them out to everybody. And so of course she's like,
get news a little late.
Yeah, but like she was just reading it and she's like, what else?
That's so funny.
And I think she stopped giving a fuck towards the end. She was just like, I don't even care. Like, I'm just doing my own thing.
You got to get to that point, you know?
Yes. So she was expected to dress in the most lavish of dresses, wear the biggest wigs with accessories. And when she did not have like a wig on, she would have to wear, they would wear like powder in their hair.
Oh, yeah.
So when you think of like extravagant like 1700s fashion, it's probably French fashion. They have the very colorful, vibrant, big dresses, and they have the very tall hair with the charms that hang from it, and like the big powdered face with the red cheeks.
It's like the bigger the better.
Yes, which was highly toxic too. Like, your face was melt.
You're destroying your hair.
Yes.
Probably have a headache 24/7.
Oh yeah.
You can't walk. Like, you can't really walk well in your dress.
But everything was so extravagant, and like she had to be held to that standard. So she was just like, okay, I'll do it, but I want to do it my way.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I bet her regent was just like, or the person who was like guiding her through this was probably just pissed no other, was just like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And she's like, wanna bet?
Yeah. Watch me.
And then she did it. I can't imagine you probably pulling her hair out, be like, you Miss, you can't do that.
Miss, take the charm out. Miss.
So, what they wore just seemed like overkill when you really think about it. Like, if you look at the outfits and just the big poof.
Yeah.
But the royals in France, it was perfect. Like, that's what they wanted. That's what they expected. Like, no one in the rest of France wore that. But, like, when you're a royal or a part of the court or just a noble, like, that was high expectations. And everybody else in the world was like, they're looking silly with those pink cheeks. But that they're
allowed to do it.
Yeah, they thought it was cool.
I feel like it's like equivalent to like, I mean, Botox, anyone can get Botox, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of like really rich people get Botox. It's like equivalent to that where it's like, what are they doing? But like they have so much money, they don't know what to do.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Same with like lip fillers now.
Yeah.
So she listened and she was like, okay, I guess I'll dress like pretty extravagantly. But her mother was also like Maria Theresa was just like, you better listen and do as told. You do not disrespect. You do not tell them no. You will do this.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, Mom, I'll do it. Like her and her mom had like this love-hate relationship all throughout her life. Like she wanted to show her mom how well she was doing, but she also hated her mom for that as well. She was just like, please stop telling me what to do, but I'll listen.
She's like a stage mom.
Oh my God.
She's like, come here, I gotta fix your makeup real quick.
She literally is a stage mom. Maria Theresa, stage mom.
TM.
So, along with getting together with a new crowd of the French, Maria Theresa also was writing to Marie Antoinette to get the French to adhere to Austrian policies. So, her mom was also coming in being like, hey, you should tell them to be on our side and do things that we like. And of course, she's like, I don't have that authority, but I guess I'll try.
Question mark?
Yeah. So this would actually cause further problems to the loyalty of the French people and Marie Antoinette. So because when she was trying to be like, oh, let's do it Austrians' way, the French were like, we're not Austrian, we're French. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh gosh, awkward.
Awkward.
She was believed to be too close to her Austrian roots, even though through this marriage and becoming queen, she had to give it up. Like, she never really gave it up, like, no matter what. And people knew this. But, of course, like, it was expected that she had to have.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't give a fuck. So this would later be in her line of succession as well, of just like, are you actually going to be a proper queen of France, or are you going to keep to your Austrian roots? And she's like, why can't I do both?
Yeah. There you go.
The first years before gaining the title of queen, Marie Antoinette understood the assignment. Upon arrival, she was refreshing to see. She was young, she was very beautiful, and quite the charmer to anyone. She was actually quite charming. She was very charismatic in that sense. She kind of had to be in that, even though people were like, I don't know what you're saying, but you sound cool.
Keep talking.
Yeah. So she was taught well and knowing what she was expected to do. She had no problem with getting on the good side of the Dauphin's family, so the royal family. She had pretty good ties with them, just getting along with them. And she proved she was worthy of being the elegant and graceful Dauphin. Like, she still knew growing up, like, how to be a proper lady, the proper etiquette of, like, how you should, like, what's a salad fork? What's, like, your dessert spoon? Like, that type of, like, etiquette and whatnot, and, like, how to approach herself and, like, how to present herself and whatnot. And so it just came down to pretty much, like, her roots of, like, oh, you're Austrian, like, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And then just some of the social norms. But when it came to, like, etiquette and stuff, she knew what she was doing because she grew up with it. Like, she was still wealthy and high class. So it is what it is.
It is.
So Marie Antoinette also put effort in on getting to know her own husband, which is shocking. Yes.
That is shocking.
Yeah. So to get a better bond with him, Marie would join him on his hunts.
Oh.
Because hunting was actually a very big thing during this time, especially for the royals. I think you talked about it with Catherine the Great.
I feel like I did, but I don't remember.
It was Peter, right?
Peter, yeah.
Yeah, Peter.
Oh, God, yeah. He would play toy soldiers in his room. Go listen to that episode.
That was a good episode. I love her story.
I know.
She's a boss-ass bitch. But, no, she wanted to get to know Louis because I think they both knew that they were in the same boat with one another, being so young and just had this new role that they were going to have to play as the rulers of this country. And so she just wanted to get to know him, and he was just like completely infatuated by her. He actually loved her very much. But yeah, she would join his hunts as she was probably just clapping, being like, "Oh, good show, good show.
Yeah.
Go get the..."
He's like, "Be quiet. I gotta get this one."
So yeah, she actually got to know him. Now, an early story of Marie that I just had to share while researching was her first act of pettiness and stepping her foot down.
Ooh.
So this was pretty early on when she first arrived to France, and this would be a feud with Madame du Barry. So Madame du Barry was Louis XV's mistress. So Louis's grandfather, the king right now, mistress, who had quite the way of convincing Louis XV on what she thought. So she was like that annoying, like, buzzing in his ear, even though he was like croaking. So this would lead to an ally of Marie Antoinette that was an architect for France and Austria, Duke of Choiseul, to be dismissed from the court. So this was one of her, like, Marie Antoinette's like first friends when she got to France, and kind of just grew a bond with, was this architect who did both French and Austrian work. And for some reason, Madame du Barry was like, "You need to get rid of him." And so Louis XV was like, "Okay, I gotta let him go."
Wow.
This did not sit well with Marie Antoinette. She was like, "You did what? And who said this? Who convinced you?" So Madame du Barry was, after all, just a mistress, so she shouldn't have that much pull. And Marie Antoinette noticed this. She was like, she's just some mistress of the king. Like, she should not have any pull to tell him to fire this guy when he needs to stay.
Yeah. Even
though it was like for her reason, for her, because he was a favor of her. But she was like, no. I'm not going to do this. So she actually refused to speak to Madame du Barry until her mother commanded otherwise. So her mother got word of this, that she refused to speak to Louis XV's mistress. And her mom was like, "Stop being a child, woman up, and fucking talk to that bitch.
Tell him.
Show her that you are the bigger person and that you're pissed about it, but you're going to be the queen. And once you're queen, she's out."
Oh.
And so Marie Antoinette was like, "Fair. Okay.
Yes, mama.
Okay. Yes, mama." So she let it go. She was like, "Okay, I guess I'll talk to her." But she kind of always had, like, from then on, like, a pettiness towards Madame du Barry until the two of them, like Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, became queen and king. As soon as she became king and queen, they're like, "Get the fuck out of here." And of course, they actually exiled her.
Oh my God.
That's how much she held a grudge. I love it. So, moving forward in the timeline, Marie Antoinette was beginning to get adjusted to her life as a French Dauphin. She was staying in the Queen's chamber, which they all have, like, their own room. Like, they never slept together. And here's a note that they didn't consummate the marriage.
Okay.
Until, like, 8 years later.
8 years.
Yeah, I'll get into that. It's a whole thing.
Oh my God.
But yeah, like, there's so much to him. to Louis.
A lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack, so she stayed in the Queen's chamber. It was like a normal thing, is that she had her own room, did her own thing, had her own bathroom, whatever.
Except there's always someone with her.
Someone always with her. And she was getting used to all eyes being on her. It was just like something that was just a thing now. So every day was another routine of what was expected and how a future queen should be. This eventually started to grow on her aspects that would make her a household name. But a shift in life would come in 1774. Mm-hmm. On May 10th of that year, Louis the 15th died of smallpox.
Oh my God.
Smallpox just making it wrong.
Getting everyone.
Of course, this was a shock to everyone. They're like, oh my God, our king. Oh. Mm-hmm. But this also meant that Louis the 16th, only 18 at this time, would ascend the throne.
Oh, I forgot about it.
She was 17.
I forgot about that situation. Oh no.
There's children. They're literal children.
Oh God.
I cry. A year later, Louis XVI would become the final king of France of Navarre, and Marie Antoinette as his queen consort. Their coronation would be held in, I think it's called Reims. This would be a whirlwind of a reign for the next, decade or so. It's going to be crazy. They both were still young and highly accepting of any help. So France was already failing economically and on the verge of a revolution.
Of course.
But they had no idea what that meant because they were too young. They didn't know. Ugh. Of course, because you have so many people on your council and on your court in this case, that they're only going to tell you minimal of what is going on. And if they try to tell you what's actually going on, you're going to be so consumed with your royal life, you're not going to give a fuck, and you're going to tell them to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be put to blame for all of it. But then again, their spending was terrible. The French loved to spend their money on a lot. And I think we actually talked about jewelry and with the Hope Diamond.
Yeah.
How with France, they're very big on collecting jewelry and putting that into their household.
Is France the fashion capital of the world? Or is that something else?
Yeah, Paris.
And, yeah. Okay.
Well, Milan is too, but that's in Italy.
Okay.
Right?
Milan, Italy. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Milan, Italy.
Little. Okay, sorry. Back to jewelry.
I'm sorry I'm making weird noises.
You're just like when you give up on a word.
That's what me Americans do. Because English sucks.
Mm-hmm. Water. So, drink your water, friends.
Stay hydrated. So they were both put into a shitty situation with no direct guidance of how to pretty much make their country successful again, to actually be wealthy. They kind of were just given the title and was just good luck. All of the work that we have failed you will now be put to blame. And so when people are like, oh yeah, he failed France and whatnot, Louis and Marie Antoinette, and I'm I don't think you realize how long it took for it to get here. All of the wars that they were in beforehand, all of the spending that they did. It wasn't just Louis and Marie Antoinette. They were the nail in the coffin, the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of other nails going in just around that same time and even before. So it's more than just one person to blame in this situation. They just got the shitty end of the stick, and they were both young, so they didn't really understand what to do in that sense. And even though if people were trying to tell them what to do, they were just I don't know, I don't care. They didn't realize the cost that it would come with.
That makes sense.
Pretty much like them with their death. it also didn't help that, like, who was going to tell a king and queen that they were doing a shitty job at being king and queen?
Yeah.
So
you can't really do that.
No, like, well, the public did. So there would be pamphlets that would just have so many, like, propaganda and shit of just, like, pretty much making fun of them, of being, like, king and queen, and how they just weren't fit for it, that they were failing their country, but, like, the public could do that.
You can gossip, but there's only so much you can do.
Exactly. Like, the people actually in the court were just like, you're doing great.
I'm like, okay.
So their reign would continue on, and Marie Antoinette would begin her life as Queen of France. And to start, Marie would hold her inner circle that shifted quite frequently. So she had an inner circle. She had her peeps. So Louis and Marie's partnership was pretty close. I find it more of like a friendship than really like a love interest, because the sexual aspect of it wasn't really there.
I just thought when you said friendship, I thought of French ship.
Friendship.
Like, it's like...
But like, they liked each other. Louis loved her though. He was completely infatuated with her, and I think it was just like a little bubbling crush, and he was like, oh my god, that's my wife.
Who wouldn't? She's the best.
Yeah. And Marie was just like, I like you. Like, they could actually talk to each other because
they bad.
Yeah.
I can handle you.
But it got to that point where he actually invited her to join the court alongside him, which was like unheard of.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, not many queens. This was not a common thing to do, as the two previous queens of France did not have this privilege. So she was lucky to get into the court, and Louis was just like, my love, just speak what you want, do what you want, make it fun. Like, I'm here for you, but like, don't make me look bad either. She's like, got it. She got in and heard everything that was going on, but with this new lavish title, she actually wanted to earn it. She's like, I got some words to say and you need to listen. And it was doing, and she was started to do that in the court. So she was a big advocate of the arts. During the meeting at the courts, she would have shows be put on to entertain the crowds. So she would hire musicians, different types of artists, like acrobats, kind of just people to entertain the crowds, to make it more fun, to just like show like all the different types of people that were in there, and to support them of pretty much like, how can we expand the arts programs, and how can we like really represent these individuals. And so she would bring them in to show people like, we got to support the people of the arts. And of course they were like, cool. She also loved going to the balls that they had. Of course, she would have to show off her new elegant styles and fashion and everything. But she would also talk her way around. She was a charmer. She loved social interaction with pretty much anyone that she could talk to. Which I'm assuming her French was getting better at this point.
Hopefully.
This eventually would actually lead to a small gambling problem that she had.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. To entertain the crowds at like her apartment, she would have a billiard tables and cards tables all set up, and she would just start gambling away. And it became, she had these parties a lot. And so with this, she was also throwing money away into it. So it was so frequent that she was having these gambling parties and putting the stakes so freaking high that they were losing a lot of money. Louis was like, honey, you gotta stop. This is getting ridiculous. I don't appreciate it. And she's like, what do you mean? This is great. Like, I'm making money. And he's like, you're also losing a lot more of it. So it came to the point where he was already seeing that the funds that they had were growing lower. And even at a young age, he realized that his wife was biting off more than she could chew with gambling. So not only was she spending all this money on clothes and on lavish dessert foods, but also a lot on gambling, he was like, okay, I am banning high risk games so you can't lose a significant amount of money. He like banned it. He was like, you can't do this anymore. you can't lose all this money because you're terrible at gambling. Like, she had so much fun, but she wasn't any good at it.
Yeah.
So it became that point where she's like, okay, whatever. So also during this time, she really started to acquire a refined taste of lavish things in life. This did not. I mean, when you start at a young age, like, you become like a shopaholic.
You're right.
An obsession. Like, it's your safety net. It's kind of a thing that you latch onto because, like, what else do you have?
Yeah.
Like, she knew she had this title, but, like, she's like, I can do whatever I want at this point because that's what they want me to do.
Exactly.
It's what they expect me to do, is to be a queen, to be the face.
Yeah, so I'm going to be the face.
Yeah, well, she spent a lot to get that face. So it also, she started to hire, because she loved arts so much, she hired artists to paint her portrait. And in the end, she would have over 30 done of just her.
Oh, wow.
And that's expensive. It was actually very expensive to get your portrait done. That's why you don't have a lot done.
Yeah.
But for her, she was like, paint me.
She's like, everyone has to see this face.
Paint me like I'm one of your French girls.
Wearing this.
She's wearing a big ass dress.
Yeah.
In a wig.
They're like, hold on, I don't know if I can fit that in a painting.
But having just like, she had more done too of her and her family as well over time. So just 30 of herself, and then all the other ones of like the family and whatnot. She was spending hella money on getting these portraits done.
Yeah.
And all of these portraits of just her were all in these different lavish dresses over time, of just like, you could literally see her transition into the different fashion ensembles that she really introduced and kind of just portrayed herself in. So you really get to see her grow and change over time as a queen, which you don't really get to see that a lot, because not a lot of the royals had, like, they had more portraits done than anybody else, but it wasn't as common as her.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The artist who would do such was Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun. 30 was a lot to anyone, so it was a lot of money, but this Elizabeth was just rolling in the dough. At the end of it, Lebrun was just like, hell yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just like, give me a ring.
Where do they put all the portraits? Do they just like put them in their room till they die?
Oh, they have them all throughout the palace, because you have to think they're at the Versailles palace. This place is fucking massive. Yeah. And I'm sure they still have them all up there, unless some of them got burned during World War II or burned during the Revolution or burned during World War I.
Or stolen, perhaps.
Or stolen. I mean, they could be hidden in some freaking tunnel in the middle of Austria or Switzerland right now. Like, I don't know. But yeah. So the paintings were not even the most expensive leisure that Marie had. There was also endless amounts of pastries and food. She loved pastries, like French pastries. Like, that was her big thing. And of course, everybody was like, she said, let them eat cake, when they questioned, like, oh, how do you, like,
she didn't actually say that though, right?
No, she never did.
Yeah.
But of course, people like assumed it. Like, someone put in like a pamphlet saying like, oh, she said, oh, we asked her, what do you expect for like these French people that are starving? Like, what should they do? And she said, let them eat cake.
Yeah, and that's like the only thing that she's known for, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
And she never said it. She's like, no.
Imagine being known for something you've never said.
Yeah. But one of her most expensive and crazy leisures that she had was, of course, her fashion.
Of course.
She was obsessed with it. She was crazy. Since her arrival to France, the transformation from Marie Antoinette to Marie Antoinette all began with clothing. Mm-hmm. So shedding the attire of her former life when she arrived in the wedding dress of an Austrian, and she was shed of that to dress as a French. I think like she switched into just loving French attire and wanting to grow with it and have that be her, pretty much her saying like, I am a French queen. I am your queen. I am French now. Look at me. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, even though it wasn't all the time, she still just wanted to be like, I am still dressing as your queen.
Yeah.
I am still French. What made this even more appealing, other than the big dresses, diamond necklaces, and endless amounts of hair powder and makeup, was that she didn't have to worry about how much it cost.
Yeah.
So this made an obsession grow. She was the ultimate shopaholic, let's be honest. So the lady in waiting to be the one to guide Marie Antoinette into fashion that would be acceptable for the court in all of France came to her and was like, hey, this is what you need to wear. This is the expectation of what a French queen should wear. She was a lady in waiting, and Marie just like looked at her and was like, no. She's like, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to take all of this fashion, French fashion. I'm just going to go off what I like and what I see. And I'm just going to do with what I have. I'm going to do it.
Heck yeah.
And of course, like the lady in waiting was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is my one job. And you're taking it away from me. His Marie was like, I don't care.
They probably like fired her. They're probably like, you couldn't get her to wear that.
So she didn't actually take it into her own hands. She actually, this was a bigger slap to the face to the lady in waiting. She actually had her own personal stylist.
Oh, wow.
That she went to, who was the woman Rose Burton. Rose was none other. She was a commoner, actually. She was just a basic woman who had really great hands to sew some really great clothes. But she went to Rose. Marie Antoinette went to Rose and was like, hey, I like your dresses. Can you make me some? And she was like, oh, hell yeah. She had quite the knack of designing and styling clothes, and Marie Antoinette was caught by her and was like, whoa, I love your dresses. Please design me some. And Marie trusted Rose with everything she wore, no matter the cost. She was just like, I want a dress. And Rose was like, what do you want? And she's like, I trust you. Just give me what you have. Make me look unique.
Yeah.
And she did. Rose was like, okay, yeah, I got you. And whatever ideas that she had, Marie Antoinette would go to Rose and be like, hey, I kind of like this. I want to try something different. Can we work on this? And Rose was like, hell yeah, I got you, babe. And she became so fucking wealthy because of this, because Marie had to get her dresses. Everybody adored what the queen wore and wanted a piece of it. Like, there was so much smack talk whenever she changed up her style, but everybody, like, a week later was wearing what she was wearing. They're like, oh my God, it's so great. So another one of Rose's famous clientele was Princess de Lamballe, and was another close friend. And another close friend was the Queen Vigie Lebrun. So Rose was bringing in all the money with this famous clientele because of Miss Marie Antoinette being like, yo, I love your style. Keep it up. So now she was getting all the business.
Yeah.
And Marie's trusted flowed from no cost matters to a trust in wearing whatever she created. The bigger, the better. She wanted to look elegant, lavish, and unique. And Rose understood that. One rule that Marie would stick to is not wearing the same dress more than once.
Oh, yeah, it can't be an outfit repeater.
Absolutely not. So Rose would create over 300 dresses a year for the queen.
God.
When she was not off at her second home.
Wow.
Over 300 dresses. I don't know how she did it.
That's wild.
So Marie, she was a state piece from her clothes to everything else. Yeah, she was rocking it. So when first on the throne, the style was robe à la Francaise. So it was like those really big. This consisted of the open underskirt with like the little ruffles and stuff, and then the super wide panniers on the side of the dress.
Yeah.
And a lot of fabric, like really thick, a lot of covering fabric, like Jesus. With the quarter sleeve with like the little lace on the side and whatnot, and kind of like the sweetheart meh. Meh. But when you think of it, you're like, okay, I see it. And it was very colorful, very floral, and it was very bright. French loved very bright, very vibrant, very floral. They love that type of style. And that's how she started out. She was like, okay, I'll follow that, but I want it extravagant because, you know, I'm a queen. And Rose is like, I understand. Yeah, I got you. And so imagine how much that costs.
Oh, geez.
With a lot of fabric. So this was all good. And she accepted this for a little bit, being queen. She's like, okay, this is great, but I want something different. And Rose was like, I'm intrigued. Do tell. Let me know. I want to know. Consulting with Rose, it was decided that a new type of fashion they wanted to try out. So they were just like, let's do something different. Marie was like, yeah, I have an idea. Rose was like, okay, what do you want? And she was like, I want dark.
Ooh.
I want to go emo.
Yes.
Emo Marie.
Oh, yeah.
And this would later on be called as push fashion. So the colors were darker, like browns, reds, purples, expensive colors. Because purple is probably one of the most expensive colors to make.
That's when you know someone was rich back then.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. This was different and shocked many. The French loved their bright floral pastels. And this was a new territory. All this dark clothing. Yeah. They're like, this is Austrian. Because Austrian clothing was actually kind of dark. Uh-huh. So the king was shocked when... So Louis was just like, I love my wife. And then she came out wearing this dark clothing that was still big and extravagant and very lavish and wild. And he's like, holy shit. And she's like, well, what do you think? And he's like, well, I love you no matter what. But my God, what do you think the people will say? And she's like, let them talk. Ooh. Yeah. So she wore it with pride. And the fashion style would quickly take off like none other. So everything was good. She was just being queen, being a fashion icon. But it all changed when Marie would actually go to their second home, Petit Trianon. So stepping aside for a moment from Marie and herself as a fashion icon, let's talk about Petit Trianon. So designed in 1764 by architect Henri Jacques Gabriel, the home tucked away on the outskirts of Versailles, away from the bustling of the palace, was a beautiful estate. It was meant for Madame de Pompadour, but when she passed, it was actually handed down to none other than Madame du Barry. Oh, Louis the 15th mistress.
Oh, of course.
The ownership soon ended when Louis the 16th came into rule. And as a succession gift, handed the estate over to Marie Antoinette.
Oh my God.
Because he knew the pettiness that she had with Madame du Barry, because they could have just left the house to her.
Yeah.
But Louis knew how much she hated her and was like, get out of here. Here you go, my wife. Here is a beautiful estate for you to go to when you are feeling a little just overwhelmed. And she's like, oh my God, I love this. She was so enthralled by this news. So not only was this a magnificent home that she would call hers, but it was also away from the prodding eyes of the servants and the publics. She could be at peace at Petit Trianon. So in the beginning of her reign, she would spend minimal time there, but after catching scarlet fever in 1779 and staying there while in recovery, she fell madly in love with the lot. I'm surprised she survived scarlet fever. Yeah. But, you know, she did that. She was quarantining. Good for her. But she fell in love with the lot. What first began as only a couple days at the estate eventually would become weeks on end. even like weekends and then just weeks. She would just stay there. Like at some point Louis would be like, hey, you coming home? She's like, yeah, I guess. So to Marie Antoinette, this was an escape from the life as queen where she could be herself and do whatever she wanted. But back at the palace in Versailles, in the public eye, they took this time away from the palace as though she was removing herself from the royal life and her duties as queen. So you can see the double side for this. It was a scandal in itself. Everybody was like, holy shit. She ignored all of that and continued to enjoy her stay at the estate. She would continue to spend frivolous amounts of money on the gardens and the animals that were there because they had a farm as well. And the party she hosted for just like her inner circle and just like a handful of friends too. She would just spend just endless amounts of money because those gardens are beautiful. If you look at the estate, oh my God, it is beautiful. It is so beautiful. I highly recommend doing just like a web search of it. Oh my gosh. But the decor, because they preserved it and they kind of just made it look like when she was living there. And oh my God, it is breathtaking. All the gold and just the accent pieces. It is so pretty. You can actually visit it if you wanted to.
That'd be really cool.
It would be really cool. So after we just summed up all of Petit Trion, let's get back to fashion. So why does the Petit Trion have anything to do with Marie's fashion style? Well, while away at the estate, the queen completely removed any part of the queen's life as like her big lavish dresses. Like, why the hell was she going to wear that if she was like on her own time doing whatever the hell she wanted, especially when there was a farm?
Yeah.
She didn't want to get her big lavish dresses destroyed in cow poop. Like, that sounded terrible. Instead, while she was at Petit Trion, Marie would wear a very simple, unstructured dress. There's actually portraits of her wearing it. It's interesting. It would be made of white muslin and have a ribbon and sash around the waist. It was literally just like underwear, like long underwear.
Wow.
It's very interesting, but she would like deck it out. Of course. She also left her hair loose and curled, which I guess was very unheard of for French royals. Like, you always had your hair done, curled, pinned, whatever. She kind of just did whatever came. Well,
yes.
This was a huge fashion disaster to all the critics. They're like, oh my God, what the hell is she doing?
She's gone mad.
It also didn't help either that the clothes that she made were also fabric that was imported.
Oh no.
That was a big no-no.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you use fabric outside of France? Like, that's just a big no-no. And she's like, whatever. Again, another scandal as the economy was struggling as it was, and the queen was buying from outside their economy to provide for herself, especially with such appalling clothing, quote unquote. Little did they know that she dressed this way so she could relax. I get it. You know, it's like we have leggings and booty shorts, and she has that.
Whatever that is.
And she also spent this time too. Over time, she would spend it with her children at the estate. Like, this was her time to get away and really kind of just show them the world of just quietness and not so much as being in the public eye.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her for doing that. No. She just wanted a moment to herself.
Right.
So this would cause an even larger stir during her reign, as she was insulting both the royals and commoners at this point. So the royals didn't think that she dressed well enough, which I'm like, she did. It was just only when she was there that she didn't.
Yeah.
And the commoners believed she dressed to their level. So when she was relaxing, as a way to make fun of them.
Okay.
For them struggling. And she's doing it for fun. Yeah. So it was a battle that she was never going to win. Like, she did it for comfort, and the commoners are like, how dare you dress the same as us?
Jeez. Wow.
And even though everyone hated it, Marie wore it in pride, as always, and gained the attention from all the others throughout Europe. Those who could afford it actually wanted to dress just like her, and it would become the chemise style. Her just relaxed style would actually take off all around Europe. Eventually.
Everyone's like, wow, you have the right idea here.
It's like she gets so much shit from the French people, but everyone else is like, this is great.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So as the queen grew older, all the way into her 30s.
Oh my God.
She decided, yeah. She decided again on a new fashion. Instead of flowers and bright colors she decided to wear something more mature. She was like, I'm an old woman now. She traded the bright colors to more darker shades with her headpieces, and the clothes were more serious and kind of like a true formal. Like they had longer trains. They were more like the patterns weren't so floral. They were more just like intricate. So she used like both like the La Francaise style and the Puech style. She kind of combined them in a way to just make herself still elegant and whatnot. So while her fashion kept her in favor and out of favor throughout the court in France, it was actually becoming worrisome when the king and queen were growing on the throne but not producing an heir.
Oh,
and that is where I'm standing
That's
today.
The problem. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
We're really getting into the heat of things.
Yeah. I mean, she's such a huge fashion icon, and I can't believe there's just so much to it.
Yeah.
There's so much back and forth. She just gets so much hate, but then she becomes iconic for it. I just find that the funniest part. I'm like, really?
I feel like that happens a lot, though, with famous people.
Oh, 100%. Like, you give them shit for something. No, there's something I have to input about it, about how crazy something is. So there's a YouTuber that I watch that she went to Tokyo and she bought this heart-shaped purse that she bought for like $5,000 or something. She's like an avid shopper or something.
Oh, okay.
Like she buys expensive stuff and sells it, like resells it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she bought this heart-shaped purse for like $5,000. Well, a couple like a year or so later, Kylie Jenner was shown with a similar purse and it went huge.
Oh.
And so because she's such an iconic figure, that purse price went skyrocket. So now it's like, instead of it being $5,000, it's like $50,000.
She still have it?
Yeah. Yeah. So if she ever decides to sell it, like she's making profit, like hella profit off of it.
Got lucky on that one.
Yeah. So it's like, if there's a fashion icon out there, they can make anything more expensive, worth it, make it a chain of just being iconic that everybody wants to wear.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how that works, but it is.
That's how trends start.
Exactly. Like Marie Antoinette was a trendsetter.
Hell yeah, she was.
Yeah. So gotta give it to her.
I love it.
So that's part 2. All of her fashion.
Nice.
So where can you find us?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Is that it? Yeah, right? That's it, right?
Yeah, because we're not on Twitter. I don't like Twitter.
Nah, screw Twitter.
It's falling apart anyway.
Yeah. So our username is Historia the Podcast. Not just Historia the Podcast. Sorry, that was a stupid joke. And then you can also email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com.
Let us know what you would like to hear.
Yes.
So next week we are finishing off Marie Antoinette, and then we're getting into
some fun things.
Yeah, I have a really good series coming up.
I have no idea what I'm talking about next, but it's gonna be a good.
You.
All right. We'll see you soon. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.